Do, 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 do. Okay, welcome everybody. We're currently live, I believe, on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So we're going to go check the feeds to make sure everything is working as expected. So give us a couple minutes to get organized and we will start rocking it. So, give me a second here. On LinkedIn, so we're going to go. All right, we have, I believe I've verified that LinkedIn is working, so I'm just currently checking on YouTube right now, see if we've got the YouTube video going or not. Interesting. All right, give me a couple more minutes to try to get YouTube figured out. Meanwhile, for those of you that are currently on LinkedIn, glad to have you here, and we'll be starting shortly. Remember, this is the Presto Delta Lake Community Office Hours. So we will go ahead and get ourselves running in a couple minutes. But if you have questions about Presto DB Delta Lake Connector, by all means, get your questions ready, prop them onto LinkedIn or to YouTube, and we will start the process shortly. Hey, Ritika, how's it going? We are currently live, by the way, so just to let you know, we're currently live. I'm just trying to set everything up because it looks like the connection to our YouTube isn't quite working right now. So I'm trying to figure out what is going on there. But as soon as I get that fixed, then we can start rocking it, basically. So give me a couple more minutes to figure this out, and then we'll be on our merry way.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, looks like we are live on YouTube, but it looks like we for whatever reason, it shifted to a different YouTube link. So my apologies for that. Okay, looks like we are live on YouTube, but it looks like we for whatever reason. Sorry, there we go. That's the repeat part. So give me one more minute just to go ahead and inform the other folks on the other channel that we've shifted over to this link, and then we will be on our way. We'll start with introductions and things of that nature. So. Da, 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 da. Okay, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and give this show on a road. So let's go ahead and start with quick introductions, and then we'll go from there. So Ritika, why don't we start with you, and I want you to introduce yourself to the audience here.
Sure. Thanks, Danny. Thanks for joining me here. So hi guys, so I'm Ritika. I'm working as a software engineer at Athena, and I've been working on Presto for around 3 years, and we're currently working on some of the security integration there, and now started also working on this Presto Delta Lake integration, and have been trying out a few of the cool features, and I've been connecting to even Venki about it. And thanks, Danny and Venki, for this office hours. I'm looking very much forward to this interaction with all of you guys.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Ritika. And then Venki, why don't you do a quick introduction for yourself, please?
Yep, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Venki, and I'm a software engineer at Databricks in Delta team. Currently, I'm working on the Prestodb Delta connector as well as the Prestodb Delta connector. Before Databricks, I used to work at Uber as part of the Prestodb as a service to the internal customers. And I'm very much looking forward to answer any questions you have about the Presto Delta connector. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Venki. Excuse me, please. Sorry about that. Hopefully I was able to mute my cough. This is the issue when you're trying to do live sessions. So anyways, hi, everybody. My name is Denny Lee. This is the first of what we're hoping multiple Presto Delta Lake Connector sessions. We're going to go ahead and this is just dive into some of the background or the details around it, and then allow folks to go ahead and ask any questions. If there are no questions, not a big deal. We're just going to go ahead and we'll do it in 15 minutes. But by the same token, if you do have questions, this is exactly where you want to ask. Oh, and I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Denny Lee. I'm a developer advocate here at Databricks. Long-time Brickster, long-time Spark and Delta Lake guy. So hopefully I can answer some questions too. And so we have a great question right from Naveen from LinkedIn, right from the get-go, which is, what's the relation between PrestoDB and the Delta connector? And so, Venki, since you did a sizable chunk of the work, why don't we start with that, right? What is the relation between PrestoDB and the Delta connector?
Yeah, so the PrestoDB is a MPP engine where you can write connectors to query data in different sources. Like the sources can be as diverse as it could be like a MongoDB, Elasticsearch, or even files, tables which are registered in Hive, but the data is in like AWS or Azure or like any of those sources. So, and also Delta Lake is like its own table format. So you basically have a set of files. On top of that, you have a metadata for transactional support. So the relationship between the PrestoDB and the Delta Lake is so if you basically it is like a new connector where from Presto you can query the tables that are in the Delta Lake format. So earlier, when we are trying to query the tables in Delta Lake, you can't query directly because there are no APIs that could directly read the metadata of the Delta Lake. So we recently, the Delta Lake community has added the APIs, and PrestoDB, we have written a new connector in PrestoDB to use the APIs to read the Delta Lake metadata and efficiently query the tables which are in Delta Lake format. So that's at a high level, it is basically we are adding a new connector that can query data which is in the Delta Lake format.
Excellent. I think you did a great job, Venki. And so let's switch to the next question. Actually, it's from Denis, also on LinkedIn. First of all, he's actually, when do we expect the connector to be available in PrestoDB connector version 0.269? So Ritika, I'm going to ask you the question first in terms of right now, we've been going ahead and working on PrestoDB, and Venki, correct me if I'm wrong, 0.266, if I recall correctly. And so PrestoDB is on 0.269. Are there any major differences between the PrestoDB 0.269 versus the current one that the PrestoDB connector is working with, which is 0.266?
So in terms of Delta Lake connector, I've been trying it out with 269 to be frank, and there was when I started basically looking into the connector. So there were few initial issues which any customer, any new we can face. I mean, because if they're using the connector and Presto for the first time, but I feel 269 should have all the fixes. If I'm not wrong, the one of the small bug fix which was there, which was basically fixed in 269. So I have used 269 and which works fine to me. And I have tried it out with multiple tables and multiple combinations. So yeah, definitely looking forward to use it more. So it works fine with 269.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's really good to know. Venki, did you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, so regarding the release, so currently the 269 is in development. I think hopefully next month, we will have a release branch cut, and then by middle of next month, we should have a release that contains the Delta Lake connector.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And then, hey, Denis and anybody else that's actually either on LinkedIn and YouTube right now, or if you're going to watch it a little bit later, because don't forget, we run these every 2 weeks anyways. Don't forget, if you're interested in participating to help us accelerate some of the schedules, by all means, join us on the Delta user Slack. And we actually have a Presto connector. Sorry, and this, for whatever reason, we called it connector-presto. I'm not sure why, but connector-presto Slack channel. And you can join us right there and talk to us right there in the get-go and join us and contribute to it. So we're always looking for contributors just because it's a pretty exciting thing, okay? So I do have another question from Shubham. We're gonna answer that question in a second, but I did wanna bring up an important aspect of this, and this is gonna go back to you, Venki, and by the same token, you can also, I can probably chime in a little bit, but I did want to call out the importance of this Presto DB connector. So we had some questions about Presto DB, and we had some connections, a couple questions, at least I'm assuming, on Delta Lake itself. One of the things that I'm curious about, or wanted to provide some context on, is don't forget, before Presto DB to Delta required us to use a manifest file. Now, the advantage or disadvantage of a manifest file was that it created a file that contained all the files that made up that version of the Delta Lake table that Presto itself would then be able to ascertain. But this is not what we're talking about. We are not talking about this because the Presto DB connector is a much more improved version of that. And so now I'm going to segue right to you, Venki. What did you do? What did we do as a community to go ahead and to make the Presto DB to Delta connector significantly better than just using the manifest file?
Yeah, sure. A few disadvantages. I'll first go through what are the main disadvantages with the manifest-based approach. So the one main thing is it is hard to manage the manifest. So basically, whenever you update the Delta table, you have to run a separate command to generate the manifest. And when you have multiple partition table, then it gets complicated. So I mean, you need to have one manifest for the partition. So those are the things that from management point of view that complicates it. Another thing is from performance and scalability point of view, so you are basically loading the entire file that has all the files that belongs to a particular version of the table at once. So suppose if you have several millions of files, you could run into out of memory errors. So these are the issues that make the manifest-based approach not to use practical in production scenarios. So that's why what we did is first thing is so the Delta Lake community introduced a standalone reader library. So what it does it basically provides the APIs so that other engines like Presto, Flink, or any other engine that wants to read the Delta Lake metadata, they can use those APIs to read the metadata. It's not just about reading the metadata, but reading it efficiently. Suppose if you are reading a table that has reading a particular version that has a lot of files, you don't want to try to load all those files at once. You basically iterate over iterate at a batch so that you don't run into out of memory situations. So this is especially useful for Presto, which has the pipeline execution, where you generate a set of splits. Generate a set of splits. That means you basically read the file status for a set of files, and then the splits are sent to the workers for execution. While the execution is happening, then you ask the split connector to generate the next batch of splits. So this works very well with the iterator-based model the Delta standalone reader has provided. And on top of, so we basically make use of that, and we don't get into any out of memory situations or any scalability issues. So that's one. And the other thing is with a manifest-based approach, you can't go back to suppose if you want to read a particular version that happened 2 days back, or to some 10 versions back, I mean, what is the current version? So yeah, I mean, with the manifest you can't go back, but with the connector you can actually, with a Presto DB connector, you can actually have a suffix to the table name that tells you what version you want to read, or what version as of particular timestamp, so that you can query the data. So basically you can do time travel queries efficiently from Presto. Presto is basically is the interactive query engine, and you want to have the ability to basically go back particular version and read the data how it was. It's doing for ad hoc analysis. So this is very useful, and also it's having a separate connector. In future we could add more features like the DML and the insert and update and merge. So we don't have those features yet, but we have a plan to add those in future. So it basically like having a separate connector makes it an efficient reader, as well as like to write write support in future. So that's the, I mean, yeah, those are the advantages of the new PrestoDB Delta connector.
Thank you very much, Venki. That's a lot of context. And so I want to just summarize some of those key points. Basically, super fast performance because of the Delta Standalone Reader. In fact, during the development of the PrestoDB connector, there was an iterator added to the Delta Standalone Reader to improve memory and performance, okay? And so these are some of the things that we're doing as a community to improve things, right? And I'm sure Ritika will jump in when I say things like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and work as a team, as a community, we're working together to add other functionalities as well. Right now it's a reader, but the idea is that over time we'll be doing writing, inserts, CTAS, operations, deletes, updates, so forth and so forth, okay? So again, really would love y'all to join us on delta.io. At the bottom of the page, there's of the web page, there is a Slack channel. Join us there. And like I said, connector Presto, I'm going to add it to both the LinkedIn and YouTube channels shortly, but I just want to call that out again as a way to participate. Now, saying this, there are a bunch of questions here, so I'm going to try to go through them. I'm going to try to tackle some of them because some of them are a little bit more egregious, and I want to keep them more on PrestoDB. But I did want to at least answer some of the questions we have. So, for starters, Shobham has asked a question like, does schema evolution work with an Athena view, and do we have to write another DDL to introduce a new column? So basically, I think you already have the answer from that standpoint, though, Venki, I'm sure you have more. But I did want to call out, we actually are working with the Athena community, in fact, to see where this is going to go. The Athena community is very excited about this code base that this PrestoDB Delta Lake code base that we've started off with. And so hopefully in the next month or so, we're going to have some more updates for you. To provide a little context, we're actually going to be publishing either next week or the week after the Delta Lake 2022 H1 roadmap, okay, or the proposed, excuse me, to Delta Lake 2022 H1 roadmap, which will include callouts to, for example, some of the things that we as a community with the Athena community are thinking about for handling that. So just wanted to call that out in some context. There's another question from Vibov. I believe his statement was, do we need to go ahead and pay Starburst now? We're not going to do any compete scenarios here, so I did want to call that out. That's not the purpose of these sessions. By the same token, we did want to call out that we are actually in conversations with the Trino community as well to see what makes sense. Okay, and so, but that's the most I'm going to get into it. I want to have these as separate conversations. This is very much about PrestoDB, and we're going to keep it on PrestoDB. Okay, so. And then, so now we got a great question from a buddy of ours, Franco Patano, okay? Does the Presto Reader take advantage of statistics in the transaction log if Delta was written by Databricks Delta, as opposed to written by OSS Delta? So, Venki, I'm sure you have part of an answer, and I have the other part of the answer. So why don't you tackle the first part, and I'll tackle the second part.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So we currently we don't support like the file pruning based on the file stats, but we do have the partition pruning and also data skipping at the Parquet reader level. Like basically, like so, the filter that you have in the query that gets passed all the way to the Parquet reader on the worker, that basically look at the footer to see like what are the min and max for the column and then do the pruning. But if we support the file pruning at the planning level, the file doesn't even need to be shipped. I mean, the task that reads the file doesn't even need to be shipped to the executor, and the executor doesn't even need to read the footer. So we have like some sort of data skipping, but not efficient data skipping that can make use of the statistics generated by the Databricks Delta Lake. But we have some plan to add that in future in PrestoDB Delta Lake Connect.
Perfect. Thank you, Venki. And then the one thing we want to add, as I called out, we will be publishing the 2022 H1 roadmap, proposed roadmap. And the reason I'm calling that out is because some questions concerning statistics for Delta that you previously saw in Databricks Delta, they're going to be showing up in OSS Delta. So there was a massive ask during when we published our proposed 2021 H2 roadmap. I can't say this quickly enough, so my apologies. But last half year's proposed roadmap, the community made it very clear they wanted features like Optimize and Column Stats and things of that nature to be placed into OSS Delta. We've listened, we've heard, and we've also worked with various members of the community to build this up. So again, keep on providing your feedback, because that's exactly how we as a community are going to go ahead and get more of these features out. And so back to specifically Prestodb and stats, exactly to your point, because that was an ask for this connector, Prestodb wasn't asked by the community. That's why the community went ahead and built it, number one. And number two, to your point, Franco, yes, statistics, things of that nature, not yet, but we are pushing them all out into open source. And we will show you the timeline, the proposed timeline next week or the week after. And then subsequently, of course, the Prestodb connector itself will be able to take advantage of those things. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Let me go ahead and jump to the next set of questions. Let's see here. Okay, no, actually, I think we answered Franco's questions as well. So, all right, perfect. So, and we did answer the questions about whether it will work with Athena. So I think that covers that part. And I just chimed in about joining us at Delta Lake User Slack. So I think that actually covers all of our questions today. So if you have any other questions, please chime in. We've only got about 5 minutes left anyway. So, and by the same token, if we're done for today's questions, not a big deal. We'll shut it down for today, but then in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back at it again. And again, join us on the Delta User Slack. Join us in the Connector Presto channel. That's where we're all going to be, and you can continue asking your questions there. Okay, looks like from what I'm seeing here, we're good to go on questions. Anything, final words for Tika or Vinky you'd like to add before we go then?
Yeah, so the Prestodb, the PR is landed and the docs are currently as within the Prestodb repo. I think that it would be good to post them, and if anybody is interested, maybe they can try it out like that. That's the one.
Thanks, Vicky. Perfect. And Ritika, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I would just say that, yeah, as Venki mentioned, the PR is already out and I have tried it. So I would say, like, as a user, yeah, the instructions are pretty much self-clear. So yeah, whoever wants to try it out, go ahead and try it out. And in terms of features, what Venki has already explained in detail, yeah, so those features are pretty much all working good. And definitely, even I look forward to contribute more and enrich the connector in future. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ritika. And then, like I said, I'm going to be a broken record. I'm not sure if any of you know that reference, because maybe I'm too old now to be using those references. But join us on the Delta User Slack, Connector Presto channel. You want to chime in, ask questions, help us with documentation, help us with testing, whatever else, contribute. We'd love to chat with you. So that's it for today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll see you on the Delta User Slack. Thanks very much, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.